Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about Filipinos' mode of clothing and housing then and now. First off, we have mode of clothing before or then. First, we have archaic epoch. During this period, the Filipino tribes wore their respective clothing that has been dedicated by the tropical climate in the Philippines. Early Filipinos wore colorful woven clothes, often with intricate beadwork and other ornaments. The Visayans also wore clothes similar to the neighboring countries such as Malaysia and Indonesia. They usually wore a robe called marlota or jacket called vaquero without a collar that reached their feet. For the Spanish era, we have heard first the New Spain. When the Spaniards colonized the Philippines, they influenced us with their clothing. During their stay, a Hispanized version of the Barot Saya are worn by women, while men are now wore Barong Tagalog. For the Spanish East Indies, in this period, the continuous influence of the Spaniards made women to wear an entire attire that is composed of four pieces, namely the camisa, a collarless chemise, the saya, a skirt shape that begins from their waist reaching the floor, the panuelo, a scarf, and the tapis, a knee-length overskirt that hugs the hips, while men continued to wear a more intricate version of Barong Tagalog. Some women also wore a Maria Clara gown that is known as Filipiniana dress or traje de mestiza, a traditional dress in the Philippines. For the American era, the women now wore a more modern version of Maria Clara gown. It has bigger sleeves and a narrower floor-length skirt with a long train called saya de cola, while men replaced Barong Tagalog with Americana, the suit and coat worn mostly by the Americans. For the Commonwealth era and Second War, we have Maria Clara that is almost abandoned by women because they now wore a floral printed dresses with mid-calf length shirts. The elders still wore the traditional dress while men's way of clothing remained the same. They still wore an Americana suit. During the Second War, Filipinos wore more simpler and casual clothing.
In the 1950s, women wore dresses with floral prints and fuller knee-length skirts, while men's fashion changed slightly as they now wore sweaters, colorful printed polos, pants, and flannels. Barong Tagalog made its comeback as it was made popular by President Ramon Magsaysay. In the 1960s, styles from 1950s remained. However, British pop culture influenced the country. A dress called miniskirt became popular and was worn by women. Men now wore a more youthful vibe clothes, such as polos and pants, due to influence made by the teenage culture scene in Hollywood and by various teen-oriented Filipino films. Only in the events that the old men wore the previous Barong Tagalogs and Americana. In 1970s, women abandoned mini dresses as they now wore a more modest clothing, such as maxi skirt, vintage clothing and bell-bottom pants. Men also wore bell-bottom pants similar to women, as well as turtleneck clothes. In the mid-1970s, the use of these t-shirts, denim jeans, and sweatshirts emerged. In the 1980s, women started to wear clothes with shoulder pads and neon-colored clothes. Miniskirt also made its comeback. Men shifted to brightly colored t-shirts or polo shirts and denim jeans for a casual look. Sportswear and colorful shorts also became popular. In the 1990s, women wore a loose, simple, and casual clothing such as oversized shirts, denim shorts, denim jeans, simple blouses, and sneakers, while men now wore a dark, simple, mostly oversized clothes.
So, in the year 2000s, the 1990s fashion remained popular during the early years of the first decade of the 21st century. Men still followed the 1990s fashion with hip hop inspired clothing. They wore cargo pants and oversized t shirts. 2000 fashion was considered a mashup of different styles. In the first part of the decade, the concept of innerwear as an outerwear was popularized, resulting in the popularity of spaghetti strap clothes. By the mid 2000s, colorful clothes began to rise again. Men started wearing flannel and checkered polos. At the end of the decade, people saw the mixture of clothing from UGG boots worn with short shorts and t-shirts to dresses worn over with leggings.
In the year 2010s, due to the development of social media, many Filipino women and men were exposed to different styles. Also due to the rising economy of the country. For the first time since 1986, people power revolution, as well as the constant building of shopping malls and shopping centers. Many Filipinos began buying more clothes. Here are some examples of popular shop or brands. The early 2010s began with a continuation of some of the late 2000s fashion. However, in 2011, a change began as people started to move away from the rock influenced 2000s fashion and create a more distinctive 2010s fashion. With the rise of social media, most of most of the women began wearing inspired clothes. Also, women became interested in 1960s fashion and began replicating that style. Men also began wearing preppy clothes, inspired by the British boy band One Direction, who rose to fame in 2010. Skinny jeans and shorts proved to be popular among men, and these came up in different colors. In 2013, skater skirts became more popular among teenage girls, and they started wearing more feminine clothing. When the mid 2010s entered, women began wearing more modest clothing as the fashion brands started to market 1950s and 1960s inspired clothing. Denim pants was replaced by skirts and leggings. Men began to wear more formal clothes. Dresses replaced the casual t-shirts and jeans worn by the women, while chinos replaced the denim pants worn by men. By the mid 2010s, many of the fashions from the mid 1960s and mid 1990s returned. Cloth- Clothing such as midi skirts, denim jackets, knitted sweaters, boat shoes, and etc. came back into fashion, while fashion pieces like chokers gained prominence once again. Men's fashion also started to move away to the rock or hip hop influenced styles of the past 2 decades and started to define a new style for men. 2010s hairstyle were often defined by loose waves for women and slick back black hair for men, while beauty trends include having emphasis on the lips and contoured cheeks. Nude color palettes were also prominent for makeup.
Because of foreign colonizers, various types of architecture are seen in our country. Some buildings look very different from our modern houses. These buildings serve as remnants of the foreign influences that were left in our country years ago. In the pre-colonization period, Filipinos used to live in kubos. The kubo was designed to withhold the Philippine climate. But when the Spanish colonized us, they introduced the bahay na bato, which is similar to the kubo but has Spanish architecture. Years later, the Americans then presented the bungalow. It has become one of the most common houses in the Philippines because of its low cost. In the present, one can choose various styles to design their homes. Some people live in condominiums, a single room in a building that people can own individually.
And that is all for the mode of clothing and housing then and now of the Filipinos. Thank you.